So far in this module, what we've looked at is how Google Analytics 4 collects events. These things called events are going to be the spine, the backbone of everything in Google Analytics 4. So what we're going to do in this video is focus on those events and have a look at how they're reported and presented to us inside of Google Analytics 4's reporting interface. To do this, we're going to open up the reports workspace in GA4's UI, and then we're going to go straight to the lifecycle collection and open up the engagement topic. Within that engagement topic, there's a report called events, and that's actually where we're going to be spending a lot of our reporting time in this video. Actually, this report alone can do possibly 99% of all the reporting you ever need to do inside of GA4, because this fundamentally is the closest thing we get to raw data or accessing the raw data. As you might expect in the events report, what it shows us, if we have a look at the very top, we've got a couple of charts as we come to expect in the detail reports nowadays. And at the top, we can interact with this if we want to and just see the top couple of events based on volume and see if there's any trends happening over time. But what we're here to look at is the data table just below. And looking at the data table, it might look pretty sparse compared to other detailed reports that you've been into inside of GA4 so far. But that's on a deliberate side, because this is pretty generic. If you look at the metrics we've got, event count, users, and event count per user, it doesn't give much away, it doesn't tell us too much. But actually, where the context comes in is depending on the row or the event name that we're looking at. For example, if we look at the session start event, having a look at the event count tells us how many sessions occurred during this date range we've selected. It tells us the number of users that started a session, and then of course the average number of events per user, so that tells us the average sessions per user during this date range. Looking at exactly the same numbers, but now looking at the page view event, this tells us the total count of page views, and then the total number of users that are logged to page view, and then of course how many pages per user on average during this date range. We don't have to keep to pages and sessions though. This applies to any event that you have been tracking or collecting inside of GA4. And combining this report with some of the other skills and features we've picked up throughout this course already, such as adding in secondary dimensions or using a table or data filter, we can actually drill down and find a lot of information out about each of these events. A good example here is adding in a secondary dimension and using the page path dimension. And then what we can do is we can filter this now very large table to specific events that we want to see. For example, we can search and filter for page_view. Now, this report is telling us what page each page view event occurred on. So fundamentally, it's now our page report. And the event count tells us the number of page views by page, and then we've got our users, and event count per user tells us on average how many of these pages were seen per user during this date range. Without touching this report at all, but changing that table filter to something like session start, this now tells us what page were the session start events logged on. So fundamentally, what was the entry or landing page for each of the sessions that occurred on our websites and apps. So just by changing this one filter, we've gone from a page report to technically now a landing page report. Now we can see the event count here will tell us how many sessions started on each of these pages. We don't have to keep it to pages and sessions again. We can use any event in here, and that will be different depending on what you have tracked, what you have set up, and ultimately what your websites and apps are doing, right? But just for one more example, we can use something completely different and use something like the click event. So changing that table filter here to click, I know this is one of those automatically collected events, something we'll be going through a bit more detail in future videos. But this click event is measuring how many times people have clicked a link that leaves the website. So now what this report is telling me is what pages did people leave the website on by clicking a link, and the event count will tell me how many clicks or exits occurred, and we can see on average how many per user occurred as well. Throughout the rest of the module, we're going to be taking a closer look at these events that you've got in this events report, understanding if they're automatically collected, whether they've had some manual intervention to get there, and even creating our own events to add into this report on top of what we've already got. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, have fun playing with it, and I'll catch you in the next one.